Our planet and our civilizations are changing faster than ever before. This is Now Go Build. Join me as I travel the globe talking to startup founders, using technologies to make our world more interesting, accessible and livable. These are the entrepreneurs that are creating the future we will live in.